Buffalo Trace is actually the longest continuously operating distillery. And that is because we had a deal in place going into Prohibition that allowed us to produce for medicinal purposes. So throughout Prohibition, we were filling barrels and dumping barrels, but we got to use them for medicinal. So basically, you would get a doctor to write you a prescription, and throughout the time, we sold about 6 million prescriptions through Prohibition. So it was actually kind of gave us a little bit of a leg up coming out of Prohibition, because we never had to shut down, never had to stop. So what makes Buffalo Trace so special would definitely be the people. The people at the distillery have been there for, the average stay has been 20 years, somewhere like that in that time. And there's been so much of what we've learned were based on what the people before us learned. So we just really honor everybody that's been there and use what they've learned to make great whiskey. My thoughts on flavored whiskeys. Personally, I'm not a big fan of them. I prefer, bourbon on the rocks. I'm a, kind of all natural that way. But I'm also very big proponent of to each his own. Everybody likes different whiskeys, so if you like flavored whiskey and you want to drink it, by all means, go for it. It's kind of like the bourbon and Coke question. I always get like, am I allowed to mix a bourbon and Coke? And I heard Elmer G. Lee say one time when someone asked him what happens if you mix a really good bourbon and Coke, he said, you get a really good bourbon and Coke. Well, to each his own in that. My favorite drink is Buffalo Trace. I'm a big value shopper. I like the price point on it, and it's an 8 to 10-year-old small batch bourbon for 25 bucks. It's tough to beat. Blanton's, it's first commercially sold single barrel bourbon, but it's also unique because it has tops, and each top is a little bit different. There's 8 tops, and if you line them all up, they spell out Blanton's. So you got to be very, very observant, because there have been people drinking Blanton's for 20 years that have no idea these tops do anything. But basically, if you look at the back right hoof of each horse, there's a letter on it. And when you line up the letters, it spells Blanton's. And then once you line up the letters and you look at the positions of all the jockeys, because it's jockeys on a horse, when you look at the position, they're simulating a horse race. So before they go into the gate, nosing across the finish line for the win, and then the fist pump after they won. It's a pretty fun little thing to collect.